Dear colleagues, all of you participants to this forum, time after time I'm surprised. I do come here rather frequently, but I'm still surprised when considering that the thought that was expressed years ago by Professor Fallico when he expressed the idea of creating such a forum with this brand, which was inclusive of Eurasia. Well, I thought it was a fantastic idea. Why Italy? Why should we all of a sudden discuss of the Euro-Asian problems? Well, I believe that this is the 8th edition of the forum, and if the first one was held in the year 2008, undoubtedly the idea was right, very fruitful, and it became even more so, not only because a number of conditions, objective conditions, led us to this point, but also because in Italy there have been a number of people, and together with the Russian federations and in other states as well, that did not stay idle in the face of the lots of the Eurasian Federation, and were very much active as to the destiny of the Eurasian Association. I am a state official. I've heard many contributions abroad and in our country, and usually we start with the following words: we are experiencing hard times, and the expression obviously is true. Every time, every epoch has its own difficulties, its own hardships and difficult moments, and the most important thing is that these difficulties will never lead us to making and accomplishing unfortunate actions such as armed conflicts. We will always have difficulties. They existed before, they will still exist in future years, and the relations between Europe and Asia, and we've already heard a lot about the many questions that were raised, we are to realize that there are a number of given realities. So what happens in the field of interactions, in the field of the political arena, that then affect this reality? If we consider the past year, last year we gathered here in the month of October again, and there have been a number of events that have affected and still affect the situation and the process of decisions, the undertaking of decisions. In the first place, the Euro-Asian community grew bigger, so the quality and the quantity grew. And then in the second place, there is a whole series of changes occurring in other structures within the Euro-Asian continent. If we consider the Commonwealth of Independent States, Ukraine was freezing and has obviously brought to a halt its own collaboration within this community. What grew was the list of countries that belong to the Shanghai Convention. This is another Euro-Asian space, 2 new members, in other words. A new observer, that is the Belarusian White Republic. And this is what changes the general picture of our own integration, I would say. We've already recalled the creation of the transoceanic community, the trade transoceanic community. This is a new reality which will have to be acknowledged and always borne in mind. In the political arena and in the field of politics, the changes, the very special events that happen are making headlines. We've talked a lot and extensively about them. We know exactly what happens in the Middle East. Now there is a new topic, a new theme, which makes headlines, which is constantly debated on TV news. That is mass migration in Europe. And against the same backdrop, we see a contemporary trend that is a slowing down of the policy of sanctions against Belarus. And in general, the Belarusian Republic definitely is not the largest member of the Euro-Asian community, but nonetheless it is carrying out an ever active role. This is going to be the topic of my friend, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, sitting next to me. He will be discussing this topic at length. But let me now express my opinion, which leads me to say that sometimes this slowing down of the sanctions is sort of presented or packaged like a sort of a gift given to those countries that live within the framework of any such sanctions. But rather, we should go back to normal relations that should not envisage any sanction at all, even more so now, in times like ours, that is when there are growing integration processes. Only too often the sanctions become ineffective, if not totally damaging. Why ineffective? Well, because whenever a sanction is adopted and adopted against a state which is part of a given economic union or trade union in the framework of the European Union, customs union, you cannot just declare a sanction against all of the countries, just only against that state. So you still have constant trade relations with all of the other states. But those items and goods that have reached those countries are then going to be freely circulated. So the efficacy is very much doubtful of any such sanctions. So this is a tool which, let's say so, it's not a modern tool. We have to find different forms, different tools. So what comes to my mind, and which has been raised, is a question that was already raised by Professor Prodi, that was discussed by other speakers as well. What is primary and what is secondary? There may be given geopolitical wishes that affect the economic cooperation. Well, probably with this respect, there is some truth. Each trade relation affecting the minds of the heads of state that take given political decisions that do exist. Now, probably this is a factor which quite obviously has to be borne in mind. By doing so, all of us who are here today, who have gathered here today in one way or another, when discussing the development of the economic and trade relations or commercial relations, tend to affect, and whenever we sign contracts or make agreements, tend to affect the minds of those policymakers that then adopt decisions, political decisions, bearing in mind their own economic interests. Now, from this point of view, I would like to take the opportunity and express once again my gratefulness to the Italian Republic and to all of those who have organized and have been organizing for so many years this forum. I would like to express once again my great gratitude and my deep felt thanks and my certainty that this is going to be and is not going to go unnoticed because it will have to lead to steps taken to improve the situation in the world. The moderator warned us. We have to be short in our own contributions. We are gone past the time allocated to us, but let me just say that I do remember the fact that when 5 member countries of the Economic Eurasian Communities intervened in front of a community of students in a university in Kazakhstan, they were warned that they could have no more than 7 minutes each one. The time allocated to them was 7 minutes. All of them were up to the same commitment, with the only exception of the president of Kyrgyzia. After 3 months, he lost the elections, he lost his own place, and this is what made me say that I will have to stick to the time allocated to me.